Good evening, everyone. This is Mike O'Malley here with an update on Tropical Storm Ida. This is part of the Hurricane Outlook and discussion for August 26, 2021, recorded around near 8 p.m. Eastern Time. Again, taking a real quick look here at Ida. Again, this has now become a tropical storm as of right around 5:30 p.m. Eastern Time this evening. And again, tropical storm warnings are in effect for portions of the Cayman Islands and the western part of Cuba. This is expected to become a pretty powerful hurricane as it moves generally northwestward in the Gulf of Mexico. And this could become, again, a major hurricane. Right now, the forecast is for this to peak out roughly around 110 miles per hour, according to the official Hurricane Center forecast, and then move inland over parts of Louisiana. Again, the track forecast today and the overall evolution has been more towards a focusing on the Louisiana coastline today, but there still is an outside possibility that Texas, that the extreme eastern Texas coastline through even New Orleans and Mississippi, Mobile Bay, and the western part of the extreme western part of the Florida Panhandle could be dealing with this in terms of impact. So again, just because the cone and the current center forecast is expected to track into parts of east central Louisiana, there will be a wide range of impacts from this storm. Looking at the visible satellite imagery right before the sunset this evening, we noticed that, again, the storm is characterized by some deep convection, but it is displaced. Again, if we kind of go back to the earlier satellite frames, we noticed that, again, the center of circulation is somewhere in here, and most of the deep convection is around here. There is some banding elements this evening, and much of throughout today, we've seen some of the banding, but this western side is fairly dry. And what you'll notice is that, again, even looking at the visible satellite imagery, there is not really a lot of flow being pulled around here on the southern side, and only as of recent has this flow become a little bit more dominant of that wrapping around feature. And again, we can see from the recon plane that's been in there throughout the day today, again, the first pass was about 1,007 millibars, but as they flew around this kind of northeast side here, an eastern and northeast side, they did find sustained winds that were great enough for the upgrade to a tropical storm. The western and southern sides of this are pretty anemic in terms of any wind. And again, this is also reflected in the fact that convection is just relatively weak. Again, we do notice that there is westerly wind here on the southern side, so this is a very clear wind shift in here, and it is a closed low-level circulation. So this is a tropical cyclone, and because of the sustained winds here that were great enough for tropical storm strength, this is now being designated as of Ida. So again, not really going to be taking a look at much of the models, but we will pop up one of the models, and that's going to be the HWRF forecast for this particular storm. Now, the HWRF forecast is a bit interesting. Again, it starts off here about 8 p.m., about 1,004 millibars. So this isn't initializing super deep, but it's not necessarily 100%. But we can't really suspect this to be 100%. Sustained winds right now are generally right around 35 knots, and this is suggesting 37 knots. So this is pretty close to reality at the moment, and we can kind of look at what the infrared satellite is supposed to look like as of 8 p.m. Again, it is fairly accurate with this deep convection that is to the north of here. And again, some of the convection here, which is kind of indicated by some of that. Again, the convection over top of the center is not really intense, but we notice that if we continue to run the HWRF forecast forward, this eventually does strengthen near the Cayman Islands, and you get winds that could exceed just about 45, 50 knots or so. So this could be a semi-bona fide tropical cyclone by the time it gets here, but you notice that it's a very small system in spatial size. Eventually, this crosses into the Gulf of Mexico, where significant intensification is likely. And we notice here on the GF, or on the HWRF forecast, rather, that the HWRF is a little bit slower on today's run compared to the previous runs. Again, it's just a tad bit slower. The HMON forecast was a little bit faster and a little bit weaker, and then closely followed much by the GFS forecast, which was already inland at this time. So the official kind of track seems to be somewhere again from central Louisiana through the eastern part of Louisiana. Again, we're kind of narrowing it down, but if there is a little bit of a weaker storm or exactly where it comes off of Cuba, again, it could sneak a little bit more towards the west here. Conversely, if it comes off of Cuba just a little bit further towards the east than currently forecast, this could come up a little bit closer and get steered northward towards places like New Orleans, maybe even Mississippi. So places, again, it's not out of the question that western Louisiana through Mississippi and potentially even Mobile Bay and the extreme western tip of the Florida Panhandle is going to have to deal with this exactly. Again, I think we're going to know much more about this once it emerges off of Cuba within the next day or so. Now, in terms of what's going to be going on with chase plans, we talked about that earlier this afternoon. So, again, right now we are in Orlando, Florida. We are going to be blasting towards the northwest over the next day. So, tomorrow we're not really leaving. Saturday morning around 11 a.m., we are going to be heading out here to Mobile, and then we will be in Biloxi, Mississippi, where we will probably end up taking our first stop, and then we will probably blast east here throughout really through Saturday evening to get in position somewhere near Lafayette, Louisiana. And again, this will be the first major season chase of the season. Again, this is the equipment that we're carrying. If you guys want to know more about that, I have a whole video dedicated to the hurricane system project that we have. Got our anemometer down here and the unmanned GoPro system that we will be setting up for the storm surge, etc. So a lot of good things planned. Again, we're just gonna have to wait and see what's mainly going on. But again, if you live in Louisiana, you of course need to be paying attention to this. But even as far west as the most eastern point of Texas, and also as far east really as Mobile Bay in the extreme western Florida Panhandle, should be monitoring the progress of this system. All right. With that being said, I hope you have a great rest of your evening. Of course, I am Michael O'Malley. I'll talk to you guys again some more tomorrow.